good audio is more important than good video. The first 3 to 5 seconds of the video is the most important. Watch percentage time is important, but I've gotten really good at doing, 40-second videos up to about 40, 45, where I can still get a high percentage of watch time. So obviously the longer the video plus the higher watch percentage time can go from like a good video to a great video.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to My Social Life. I'm your host, Jacob Kelly. As always, today's podcast is powered by Surf. And this is the podcast where we teach you how to grow on social media by talking to people who have actually done it. People like Zachary Daranowski, who's better known as MDmotivator and boasts over 6 million followers on TikTok alone, on top of over 1 million followers on Instagram, over 900,000 subscribers on YouTube, and many more. Zach, I'm very excited to have you here on the show today. Welcome to the podcast.
Jacob, thank you so much for having me. And I'm excited to chat everything about social life.
I'm excited to chat with you as well. And before we dive into kind of the weeds of social media, who was Zach before TikTok, before Instagram, before it all? Who are you before social media?
I was a lost, depressed medical student. That's probably the best way to describe it. I was following a life that wasn't mine, and I can delve more into it if you like. But it really took a lot of things to get me to an ultimate breaking point in my own life to ask myself, this is the question I always said, is who the fuck am I? What do I really want out of life? What makes me happy? And these questions that we should be asking whoever's listening from when you're young on a constant basis. But if you don't ask that question for a while, those are scary questions to ask because sometimes those answers aren't what you want to hear. So lost, depressed medical student, to answer your question.
And so when you say lost and doing things not necessarily for yourself, does that, because I know, so if we don't have to talk about any of this if you don't want to, but I know, so from my understanding, you dropped out of college originally. Family wasn't too stoked. And then to kind of prove everyone wrong almost, you went into the medical field because that's the hardest educational field you could go into. And is part of when you say lost because you were doing it to prove everyone wrong, or when you say you were lost, can you, if you're okay to talk about can you contextualize what that means?
Yeah. So when I was 18, I failed out of college and was kicked out of my house. And at that point I learned that I need to work really hard to get what I want to do. And I've always wanted to help others. And like you said, I guess using people's fuel or external motivation, combining helping others and that was med school. So I got into med school and I guess I enjoyed it. It just wasn't the end all be all for me. So when I got there, it was in January of 2020. COVID obviously happened. I went through a 6-year relationship breakup. So that at that time, I was over half a decade in my 20s. That was my identity and my happiness. And right after we broke up, I tore my ACL so I couldn't work out or play sports, which was my therapy. And I didn't know that either. Medical school was hard. COVID left me not able to go home, but yet also not able to make new friends. So essentially, it was just a bunch of things to a breaking point. And when I say lost, I mean a shell of myself and not really knowing who I am as a person and not being able to act on it because medical school was taking of everything. So it was just this constant faking it and recognizing that when I had no one, that it really meant nothing what people thought of me. So I made a TikTok one day because that's the most logical thing a medical student can do as a cry for help, honestly, to find a friend. That's what it was about. I was trying to find a friend who struggled with depression and maybe was a few steps ahead or just a stranger to talk to and connect with on the internet. And I was hoping to get 40, 50 views, find the friend and then move on with med school and just continue on. But the first video went extremely viral. And through that, I learned that a lot of people struggle with mental health. And more importantly, a lot of people started talking about mental health because before COVID, maybe that's a blessing, even though it's almost pop culture at this point when you speak about depression and anxiety and mental health, but it's become okay to talk about it. And that was the biggest thing for me, was I wasn't okay to talk about it with my family or my friends back home. And that probably would have not let me go farther down the hole. So through that, I started creating videos where we built a community centered around vulnerability and authenticity. And that's kind of what maybe we can go into about content creation afterwards. I created a formula. So it's vulnerability equals relatability equals empowerment. So I recognize when I'm vulnerable, I can relate. And when I can relate, I can empower. So that was the formula I used for content creation. It was surrounded by mental health and how I created a company called Mental Health Movement, which was a podcast, a clothing company, and a philanthropist company. We gave like thousands of dollars away to college and high school students throughout North America that were struggling with mental health. But most importantly, building, like I was saying, a community of individuals who felt alone but are so well connected through their thoughts. And through that, I fell in love with it and I slowly started making more content. And I got to a point where I just I saw medical school sort of like any postgraduate education or honestly any career. If it's not the end all be all for you, you're in the wrong space. And I wasn't doing bad, but I wasn't end all be all. I was somewhere in between. So I made the scary decision as of August of 2021, so about maybe 6 months ago, to quit medical school in Sydney, Australia, and move back home into my parents' basement in a small town in Windsor, Ontario, Canada, and make TikToks. So I went home, and 3 days later, after going home, I made my first real video, which said, "Your vaccination status won't change how much I love you." And that was this video, which is more surrounded by the stuff I do now, like on unconditional love and kindness. And overnight, it had 20 something million views, and it's just taken off ever since. And I've been very fortunate over the last 6 months, the way it's progressed.
And so now talk to me about that decision to drop out of med school, to move back into your parents. Because originally when you failed out of school, like you said, you got kind of kicked out of your house. So when you make the decision, is that a tough decision? And what's the conversation like with your parents when you're like, I'm going to drop out of med school now after doing it and investing my time and money into this, to do this internet thing? Like, was that a tough decision and conversation for you to have?
Probably the hardest decision I've ever had with my parents, harder than when I was 18, because there was a decade more worth invested. And now we're like back at square one. That's how it felt to me. And it wasn't, and fortunate enough for my parents to allow me to come back home. And I don't even think they believed in me. They just saw I was like depressed and not happy. And they, being halfway across the world for almost 2 years, they just didn't want me to like look and feel that way. So that was hard. Obviously, like I said, I made the first video 3 days back. So those first couple of days back, even when before I made the video, I'd be like, yo, I thought you were in med school in Australia. And like friends and acquaintances and people that I used to like care about what they thought of me, them just asking questions. And it, yeah, it was really hard. It was really, really hard. Even my med school friends or my Instagram name is essentially medical doctor motivator. It was an account to get into to start to get into medical school. So I kept the name as a reminder that like it really doesn't matter where life takes you as long as you're really listening to your intuition, and self-awareness is everything. And that's what I've like really tapped into. It's funny. It's ironic.
In those moments when you're back at home for the first time, everyone's asking you, why are you back? I thought you were in med school. They're kind of questioning you. They're not sure what you're doing. What keeps you going? Is it the self-awareness? Is it the intuition? Like that's gotta be, is it the views maybe? You know, you got that video pop off right when you came home. Like what's keeping you going in that moment?
I'm $200,000 in debt. I quit medical school. I got nothing. Like just fucking make something happen. That was what really drove me at that point. Like I didn't care about anyone's thoughts. I stood there with a sign in a town that's like super like not judgmental, but like small minded or like a very opinionated. And like I was scared. If you go watch that video, I was scared. I was like shaking the sign. I was scared, but like I knew I needed to do something to just make something happen. So I would say it was almost like desperation at that point. But really, I guess giving something all I had in a lane that I had no idea what I was doing. That makes sense. But I really wanted to do it.
So fast forward to today then. So you said it was about 6-7 months ago when you made this decision, you moved home, about that.
Yeah.
How are you feeling with everything now?
Amazing, man. Amazing. And like I tell this to all my friends and people that I speak to. It's like I feel like I'm 8 years old every day I wake up. I'm excited for the day. And for like a decade, I couldn't tell you that. Like just glowing from the inside. And I get to meet strangers and bless strangers daily through creating an online community of people who want to spread kindness and love. Like I'm just so fortunate and happy. I won't even say happy. I don't believe in happiness. That's another thing. I believe in like an internal peace and like a calmness. Happiness is like an immediate gratification that comes and goes. But like I'm just good is the best way to put it. for the first time in a long time.
How much do you think the word happiness trips people up when trying to figure out what to do with their lives?
Maybe because they feel like it's an end game. Like, oh, I'll be happy then. That was the biggest thing with me with pre-med, med school, residency. I'll be happy when, and then like your life's passing you by. I think it's so cliche or so much easier said than done, but living in the present moment and being grateful, and reminding yourself of that versus trying to find happiness. Happiness comes from within, and finding your purpose. And that's easier said than done too.
And to your point with happiness being fleeting and people thinking it's the end game, it's when they have that, they experience that happiness and then it starts to go away. And then they question themselves because they thought happiness was the end game. They don't realize that it's a fleeting feeling. And so when it does start to kind of go away for a little while, they think they're doing the wrong thing. And I think that also trips up a lot of people.
Absolutely. What makes you happy, Jacob?
Turning the mic around on me and I gotta think. I don't know exactly what I would define as making me happy. I think where I find a lot of fulfillment, I like when I can work on a project for an extended period of time. Like if like for example, like I just last year for fun, I started writing movie scripts just for the fun of it. I just enjoy doing. I think like novelties also just makes me happy. Like trying something new for the first time. Spending time with family and friends makes me happy too. Like that. I think another one too, which trips me up a little bit, is nostalgia. I feel like nostalgia makes me happy, but it also makes me sad at the same time. So it's one of those weird nostalgia, one of those weird feelings. But I think those are a few of the things that
Jacob,
make me
how old are you,
happy.
Jacob?
24.
24. I'm 28. Have you heard of Are You Afraid of the Dark or Goosebumps?
Yeah. Like the old books, you mean?
The old books or TV shows. I used to watch those when I was like feeling anxious because that nostalgic feeling just calmed me. But like
Mm,
Goosebumps, I don't tell anyone that, but that's the first time I've ever shared that. I don't know if you knew.
that's amazing. Well, thank you for sharing that with me, man.
Probably.
There's one before we kind of dive a little deeper into this, into the TikTok side of things. There's one specific individual I want to ask you about. I don't know his name, but I know he's from Vermont. Can you tell me his significance to your story?
I'm not sure who that is. I apologize.
No, that's okay. He's the first person that reached out to you when you started posting on social media.
Oh, wow. You're going there. Okay. So you did some research. Okay. I was thinking about TikToks about like who from, I haven't been to Vermont. Okay. That's cool. Yeah. So before went to medical school, I had an account, on Instagram. At that point, it was called White Coat Vision. That was the name of the account before I went to MDMotivator, White Coat Vision. And I shared how I failed out of college. I shared my college transcripts at a 0.59, failed out, showed all the grades and shared a bit of my story. And I'd had like what, I don't know, like 30 followers, 50 followers, under 100 followers on Instagram at the time. And I remember because I used hashtags and I thought at that time hashtags were like super helpful. And I have a hashtag med school or student. And I guess somehow it got on someone's feed. And this kid or this guy, I forget his name at this now, this was like almost like a long time ago. He messaged me. He was from Vermont and he just opened up and he shared his story and like talked about how he went through a similar struggle with college and his relationship with his family. And the most important thing, like just the openness of a stranger to be vulnerable to another stranger and share their story. And I was blown away that social media can be used for so much good because from what I've seen up to that point, social media was a filter. Like, I don't even mean just like the photos, but I mean the highlight reel stories filter. And that's why I think TikTok's much better than Instagram is fakeness doesn't make it. Realness is felt immediately and vulnerability and authenticity is everything. So that really inspired me to, I guess, share more of my academic story up to that point. And now obviously pivot to what I'm doing now. So shout out to the guy in Vermont if you're listening. Forget his name.
And so how did you get comfortable sharing stuff? Like just, and I mean, most people it's tough to be comfortable on camera in general, but how did you get comfortable sharing some of these deep emotional things?
I really wasn't. And when I was in med school, like I told you, it was desperation. Like I had no one to turn to. I didn't feel like confident enough to talk to my friends or my family, and counselor didn't really help me at the time. So it was more so just the only outlet that I could find. And like even people in med school in my class, they would like share my TikToks to like other med school friends and like make fun of me. And like, I know that. And like, they probably knew that I knew that. So like, it was hurtful on top of the fact that I was going through a lot at the time. But um, it all worked out. But no hard feelings either. Sorry that my mom was printing something off the printer. I came back to my basement to do this podcast to get in these helmets. So.
No, you're all good, man. It happens. Things like that happen. It's part of makes it authentic. It makes it authentic.
Yes, sir.
And so you said it was your first TikTok that really took off. What was that first video?
I think it was like 5 anecdotes or 5 like thoughts or feelings about what depression felt like to me. And it was just me in my room going like this, pointing up at like 5 quotes. It was very basic. I had no camera. I didn't have a ring light at the time. I put my phone up against my laptop and just hit record. But I think it was just at that time, not a lot of people were talking about mental health maybe on the TikTok space, especially not a lot of guys, and especially not many medical students or like healthcare practitioner like space on top of that. So it just took off.
And is that because like you were expecting like 50 to 100 people to watch it? So how are you feeling then when it takes, like you think you're sharing this deep personal thing, but your expectation is that 100 people will see it. And now I don't know the exact view count, but I'm assuming it's in the hundreds of thousands, if not the millions of people that have seen it now. And so as that's happening after you post this, are you freaking out? Are you excited? Like, what are the emotions like?
Yeah, I posted it. I went to class. I was in like a cadaver lab with like dead bodies and in the lab and not even thinking about the TikTok. And then I came back to my house that night. Like, I don't even think I brought my phone with me to the cadaver lab. Like, I just, not even a thought. And then I came back and I saw it had like 600,000 views in like 6 hours. And I didn't know what to do. I called my friend and like, but most importantly, I went to the comments and I just saw like thousands of people sharing their stories, like 8 years old to like 65, married, job situation, life situation, financial situation, DMs, emails, like just blown away and felt like I had to respond. That was the other issue I had. It was like immediately, how do I help? How do I fix these people's problems? Right? That's your thought. And oftentimes I've learned now it's like people just sometimes don't want answers. They just want to be heard. And that goes a lot into like why I do the blindfold hugging videos was like just giving them a stranger to like vent to because we tend to think we need to fix things when sometimes we're just assuming what they want when we don't really know it. So, and also like setting boundaries, personal boundaries and burnout. So that was a learning experience, but I've had people, I guess, in this space that have helped me through it as well. So it was overwhelming and unexpected, but very appreciated moving forward.
So I normally ask people like, when you have that first viral video, do you have pressure to follow that up? But in your case, it's interesting because like you didn't do anything specific to go viral. Like you didn't do anything intentionally to go viral. You were just kind of sharing your story, being authentic, being yourself, and you went viral. And so like, is there pressure to follow that up when you just kind of, like you said, threw your video on your lap or your phone on your laptop and recorded a quick video and went viral? Like when posting the second video, are you worried it's not going to do as well?
Of course, that's like almost like a gambler, right? Like it's an addiction, clout, if you want to call it, or like the high of going viral. Especially my account, that was the first video. I had no other videos on my account. So I felt like every video had to be better. And not just like that, which I learned about. I didn't think I really had like the need to do better when likes or views or shares. But I just thought it was necessary that the video had to be better than that because look how much of this video like connected with people. So it was more of like a personal like connection to like what I was speaking on. Whereas if it was like me, like, I don't know, pranking my friend at McDonald's and it went viral, I wouldn't feel the same urgency or need to continue. So I felt like it was, twofold.
And so how did that second video do that?
If I don't remember, not as good. They didn't flop, but like, no, that was like that video. And then I had like some other good videos, but like, it was just like this, I guess like ebbs and flows. But overall they did good and I grew the account or I started to grow at a decent rate when I started, but I wasn't trying to grow or make viral. Like, I don't know. It wasn't really a thought as much as maybe most people would think to like grow the account. It was just, I hope people connect and share some good stories. That was the thought.
how then? So I was going to ask, like, how did you kind of capitalize on that momentum? But you weren't really like, you were capitalizing on it, but not with an intent to capitalize on it. Like, it was kind of happening organically, essentially.
'Cause I was in medical school, right? I just went through like a big relationship breakup. I was trying to find myself and like stay afloat in medical school with exams and classes and tests, like, and like being a part. Like, there's so much other things going on in my life that the growth of social media was not at the forefront of my mind. I was very fortunate it was growing, but it was not like a thought process.
So looking back on it now, I'm curious, I like to ask, what are some mistakes you think you made in the journey of trying to, of growing your social media? And I know you weren't necessarily trying, but it was happening. Like, is there anything you look back and you go, man, I can't believe I did that?
I look back, I just think my content was like embarrassing. I can't like rewatch old content. I rarely watch even my content that I posted like last week again. I just can't watch it. I don't like photos either. Um, but in terms of like, I guess, content mistakes, um, repeating something too many times because it worked prior. I know that's a thing, right? Where like something works, make a series out of it, and then run it into the ground, and then like pivot to the next thing. Um, but that when I started running series into the ground, I felt like I was okay. If it works or it doesn't work, it has no emotional attachment to me. I don't even care about this anymore, right? I enjoy trying new things and creating new things. So even if something's worked or I feel like it will work again, I know if it's not broken, don't fix it. But like, I kind of don't agree with that. I like the idea of figuring things out and the uncertainty of everything. Um, yeah, that's not really answering your question, is it? But it's just a tidbit.
But that's an interesting thought, right? Because like I talked when I'm talking about, like, I like to work on like longer pieces and stuff, like a script or something. My TikTok sometimes, because I post one like a day. If I'm on, sometimes I just forget, but like I'm usually posting one twice a day, and they just feel so throwaway. Like it feels like I haven't invested. You know what I mean? Like to your point, where it's just like um, that you don't care if you know it's going to do well. Like I kind of have that, like I don't care about the content. Like I do, but at the same time, it just feels like I'm posting to get to my next post. So I kind of know what you're talking about there. Like I have coming up from a slightly different angle, but I know what you're saying. And so then, kind of with that in mind, and with obviously you're posting a solid amount, how do you make sure you're, other than mixing up the content, how do you make sure you're still loving it?
Mm, I wasn't, because I was just posting a lot. I started posting not a lot for what my schedule and my life was at that point. And I stopped liking it. But I really enjoyed, like I said, we created a company called Mental Health Movement, and the philanthropist aspect of it and connecting with people and feeling a part of a community and vulnerability. I really enjoyed that part about it. And I couldn't really jump into that, even though I was like, I've kind of found what I like. I don't know where it's gonna go, but I really like this, and it's like I feel like I'm good at it. So it wasn't until I took my, like, I guess, like foot off the gas pedal with like content creation and like thought about what do I want to do with my life. This was like probably like a 6 to 8 month decision to quit med school. It was like all of 2021 up until like when I did do it in August or September. Don't know if I answered that question either. I apologize. You're making me think about some difficult times, and I haven't really like chatted about it much. I'm open to it though.
So I'm curious now. So today, then, you're sitting at 6 million, right? As of right now, just over.
I think so. Yeah.
Do you ever stop and think about that number?
It's unfathomable, man. I can't even think about it. Yeah. That's a crazy number. I don't, to click the follow 6 million times. Yeah. I don't know.
Is imposter syndrome something that you kind of deal with?
Kind of. Yeah, kind of. Used to, not as much now. I don't consider myself an influencer. I consider myself a guy who likes to make videos and help people and like talk to strangers. I don't like the word influencer. I feel like so I normalize it. Like I never tell anyone my following count or my Instagram or TikTok. Like I tell people that and they're like, oh, you make videos? I'm like, okay, we'll invite you to our wedding to do the videos for our wedding. I'm like, all right, awesome, man. Have a great one. Like I don't like to talk about it, but I just really enjoy the feeling of not posting the video, like just like waking up in the morning, knowing I'm gonna go make a video, I'm gonna connect with this stranger, potentially we could change their life. That part of it, not even the posting part. So I don't know if I have imposter syndrome because I'm not even like really a social media guy. I post and it works, but like it's more focused on earlier part of the day where I'm interacting with like 50 to 100 strangers to find the one for that day. So no, not anymore. I did, but when I was lost, I'm not lost anymore. So I don't feel like I have that syndrome.
So you don't feel necessary because you're not identifying essentially as an influencer. You don't feel the need to compete with everyone else.
Don't feel the need to compete and don't really care what people think. A lot of times people now they say it's like, yo, are you going back to med school, or, well, are you still going to do med school, or do you make money off this? And like I would probably back like maybe like 6 months, I would have been bothered by that, or like try to justify or like say something. Now I just like smile and like I just say, I don't even like explain myself. So I don't feel the need to care about what other people think about me because I'm so damn at peace that it's a good feeling. So no imposter syndrome because I'm not trying to be something. I'm just trying to be like me. Yeah.
So if a video like quote unquote flops, which I'm sure a video that flops for you is would someone would be stoked to get that many views, but like is your mood tied to the performance of your videos? Like do you check and if you have a video that doesn't do as well, like your day's not going as well anymore?
I don't know. Maybe a little bit, but not like I I would have, I don't know. I'm always, once I hit post, like I said, I don't rewatch my videos. I'm immediately thinking about tomorrow's video or like the next thing that I'm doing. I never live in the past. I don't think about it because it's nothing I can do. Um, and to be quite honest with you, at this point, I've posted, I think, 1,700 videos. I know right when I'm editing a video if the video is going to be bad, good, or great. Sometimes they surprise me a bit, but like I just know, and then I can tell within like 5-10 minutes after posting how good it's going to be. Um, but I have it pretty much down to a science in terms of like how to like not work the algorithm, but like make the most out of the content that I have.
What are some of those things that you look for then that you see it in your video when you're editing it or you see in the first 5-10 minutes that makes you go, okay, yeah, this one's going to go off?
Good audio is more important than good video. The first 3 to 5 seconds of the video is the most important. Watch percentage time is important, but I've gotten really good at doing, I guess, 40-second videos up to about 40, 45, where I can still get a high percentage of watch time. So obviously the longer the video plus the higher watch percentage time can go from like a good video to a great video. A lot of the conversations I do they're always not about me. They're always about another individual. And if that other individual does something that's not like a script, so an example would be I asked this kid who's 14 at McDonald's to buy me a crispy chicken sandwich. And the first person who's going to buy me the sandwich, I was going to give $500 to. And this was in San Diego like 3 weeks ago. And the kid bought me the sandwich. And I said, oh, the first person who buys me a sandwich, I'll give $500. So I gave him the $500. Amazing reaction. He asked me, can I give you a hug? Which is awesome. Like he asked the question. We sat down, we had the sandwich. And then he said, actually, hold on, there's a guy outside. I want to get him something to eat. And he gave him some of his cash, like just off top. So like the fact that he paid it forward, like I just thought it was going to be like that. So from a good video to a great video is just like the human, I guess, variability factor. I guess that's probably the biggest thing. And then the other thing is how can you make a video shareable? So I know a lot of content creators that are surrounded around like similar style content that I do is like, what makes you happy, or who like, asking like deep questions and getting real responses versus me as the creator and the person who posts the video. If I tell you I'm depressed and this is why I'm depressed versus me asking you, how come you're feeling depressed? It's less forced and voluntary. And people really resonate with that and can feel that. So that's some of the, I guess, really quick things that come to mind when it comes to creating content.
So with your content, like obviously some of it's really feel good, some of it's emotional. What don't people realize about putting those videos together?
Wow. Most of those times it takes me between 2 to 6 hours to find the person. People are always like, oh, that's scripted or that's fake or like that's too good to be true. But like I'm literally out there talking to strangers all the time, getting rejected by strangers all the time. Them asking me, don't put the camera in my like all the time. Like every video I post, I get the consent of the person, but like to get that video and that person requires so much. So it takes me 2 to 6 hours. And then for a 40-second video, even though I have it down, it still takes me an hour to 2 hours to edit a video every day. So it's more work than it may seem than just going to McDonald's and giving someone $500 and recording it on your phone and posting it. Um, it's a full time thing, but I really enjoy it. But I'm just saying that's one thing people probably don't know, how much time it takes.
Some of these shots in your videos are from like a distance. So do you have someone that helps you film? Or are you like setting your camera up on a tripod and hoping no one snags it and going to stand on the other side of like the lot or something?
So when I first started the videos, I was doing a lot of the blindfolded videos, and one of my good friends, he wanted to get involved in videography, and he started helping me. I couldn't afford anyone at the time, but he volunteered for 6 weeks to help me, like almost between part and full time hours, because he believed in what I was trying to do and wanted to see me win. And fortunately enough, now he works full time with me on creating these videos. So it's a hybrid between his, if you want me to just tell you the camera. So it's a Sony Action 3, and we use this thing called a Rode mic, a Rode Go. So there's like a lapel mic in my pocket, and then he has the other receiver on his end. So he could be standing 100 feet away, but the only audio that picks up is like me and the person here. So that's what I was saying, good audio and video. And then the other thing is I wear like a GoPro with like a chest strap. So when I was in Mexico for 6 weeks, December and January. And that was the first time since I started content creation that I didn't have a videographer. And I couldn't obviously then film the blindfold videos. And I was like, okay, I need to find a way to pivot and still be relevant or create content. So I pivoted from the mental health stuff to more like, okay, it's a third world country. We can actually help some people. So there's a lot of street vendors there. And I went up to a street vendor. It's the first one I did. And I asked her, I said, how much for one of these pieces? She like paints these pieces. She used 24. She started when she was 6. She's been painting them for 18 years. Her name was Judith. And she's like, I think 100 pesos or 120 pesos. So I think that's like $6 US. And I said, how much for all of them? And she said like 12,000 pesos. And I said, okay, can I give you 18,000 pesos for all of them? So more, obviously. And she's like, what do you mean? And I'm like, yeah. So she took the money. And then I said, all I want is one piece. You keep the rest to sell. And then obviously there was a much more grand reaction. And then the why I did her, because on her table, she had her website, which linked to her Instagram, where she sold these online. And overnight, she gained 60,000 Instagram followers and sold out her business. And that was what I love the most. And that's what I really get excited to do, not just like giving people money, but giving people an opportunity to share their passion or purpose and use what I got to blow them up. So that was a cool thing. And I started doing a lot of that while I was there, and then adventures. But I had to pivot because I needed to I didn't have a videographer. So I have experiences helping small businesses and vendors, mental health, unconditional love, and then obviously um, like the $500,000 videos and then GoFundMe's linked where we can help people who maybe deserve a second chance or just are really calm people.
How do you come up with content ideas and decide what you can, like what's kind of within your, for lack of better, within your niche that like it makes sense for you to be posting on your account? Like how do you come up with those ideas and make sure that they're close enough to what you're already posting to post them?
The environment or the location I'm at. So like one of my biggest Instagram videos that got me over 1 million, that got like 200,000 followers on Instagram, was this video of this guy named Benji. So it was snow. It was our first snowstorm here in Windsor. I was like, yo, Patrick the videographer's name is Patrick. I was like, bro, how are we going to film today? Can't film outside. It's snowing. I was like, bro, let's take somebody tobogganing. So in my mind, I'm like, okay, that's a cool idea. Like if you take a stranger tobogganing, I'm like, how can we make this like awkward but more wholesome? Let's whisper to like a student who's studying and like take them on a study break so that you get that like contrast of like asking this really crazy question, but in a wrong setting almost feel. So that was the idea. And then the execution was the human factor. When I asked the kid Benji, yo, you want to go tobogganing? He said, what's tobogganing? I'm from Africa. And then then that's like a perfect video. And like, it was a great experience. And that's another thing. The amount of money or the transaction or I don't know, the risk means nothing. It's what it means to the person. It could be $1, or it could be $1 million. It's what it means to that person. Like the experience of getting a snow beard for him and everything. We went back twice since because he loved it so much off video, but it's that idea. And then through that experience, Current Bank reached out to me to sponsor him to be able to go back home to Zimbabwe. I don't want to say Nigeria, Zimbabwe. So we surprised him with another video, part 2, where he has a flight home to see his family he hasn't seen. So it's a blessing. And just like uncertainty, to answer your question. Every day is a new day.
How do you balance? Because like obviously you're doing these amazing things, and like how do you ensure you're still doing the things? And I'm not trying to ask this for any. I'm not trying to offend you with this question. Is what I'm trying to say, but like when you're going through these experiences, you're going through these incredible experiences. I'm assuming you're present in that moment, but you're also in the back of your mind thinking like, this will be great for the video. Is like that a hard duality for you to be like, where you want to be in this moment, but you also know that the camera's recording this too?
It is. It used to be. It's not as much now because it's become really second nature at knowing the right things to say, or just feeling it, or being in the flow is much more important than thinking about, is the video good? Because that makes the video not as good. Like a perfect example would be when I was in San Diego 2 weeks ago with a homeless gentleman. He was 69. His name was Stony. We raised like $38,000 for him in like a week. I don't know if you've seen the video, but I asked him for like change for the bus to get back home to Canada. And he's like, I got 10. I'm like, can you break the 10? He's like, can I have 5 of the 10? He's like, no, I need to eat. I was like, can I have 2 of the 10? He thought about it. He said yes. And when he said yes, he reached down to his sock. And like in the moment, I'm processing this homeless gentleman who's 69 years old going into his sock to take out a wrinkly $10 bill to give a stranger. Like, video aside, it's almost impossible to process in that moment of like what that money and meant to him, and like his willingness to give. Like that's one of the things. People who have the least give the most. I say that every day. But like, I'm not thinking about the video because I don't even know what to say as like a human. So I'm not thinking about that as much as I used to. I'm just trying to like learn. I learned so much. I learned so much from people, like all like I guess the least give the most, or like those things, like learning it through real life situations and like constantly reminded of that. It blows me away. I want to share one more story if that's cool with you too, because I'm thinking about least give the most. So when I first started, there was a guy on a sign. I was the guy on the sign. Sorry, pizza sign. I said, "Who do you wish you were with right now?" And this guy came up to me, and he said, "My ex." And I said, "What happened?" And he said, "She cheated on me." I said, "How are you now?" He said, "Homeless." I said, "How come?" He's like, "Oh, she had 2 kids and I didn't want them to be on the streets. So I gave them the house." And then I was like, hold up. This guy was across the street like 30 seconds ago before I started interviewing him, so to speak. And I saw this guy put change into another homeless man's cup. So I just called him out. I just said, "Dude, you're homeless. You just put change into this homeless man's cup. Why'd you do that?" He's like, "It's my birthday in a few days. I had a few extra bucks." I'm like, "How old do you turn?" He's like, 32. And I got his consent, shared a story, raised like 10 grand, and like got him off the streets, and he's in a job now. But like the idea of like, this guy had nothing but gave without any hesitation or without any like validation needed. Just like, it blew me away. That was probably the first time I've seen that. And I've seen it so often now, but that just still blows me away to this day. His name was Ryan. But wow, yeah, I needed to share that.
No, thank you for sharing that. And so are you staying in touch with these people like Ryan, like after the videos happen?
Yeah, some of them more than others. Like today I had like a 30-minute phone call with Stony to see how he's doing. And said make sure everything's good from his end. He's super good. But some of them you lose track of in conversation, or that's another thing if you want to go there. Some of the people that I've helped that have been, I guess, homeless or going through stuff, there's complexity there. Money doesn't solve those problems. Money just band-aids it and amplifies it if it's already still a current problem. And they fall victim to addiction, or they relapse, or right. And it's tough. It's a full-time job to sometimes help one individual, not to mind you, like all the things that are happening, plus trying to move forward. So I try to do my best, but I've have now a really good team here, at least in this city, that helps people in those positions so they don't relapse and gives them the best support, or they're connected with that. So I can't do everything, but now I have a team here that does help with that. So I've learned from the mistakes from the past, which is, I think, is the most important thing that we can all do.
And I'm sure the question on everybody's mind here as they're listening to this is like, how does this work financially? Like, we don't need to get into like the specifics, but like in all your videos, you're handing out $500, $1,000. No, in some cases you're doing the GoFundMe, like you said, but a lot of it, like you're just pulling money in your pocket and giving it to people on the street. So like, is that all through brand deals and like that's part of the brand deal? Like how does this work when it comes to paying for all this stuff?
Yeah, I'm very fortunate, man, to have, I guess, like you said 6 million, but like it's the people, man. I don't it's 100% like community funded, all these videos. So sometime I'll go TikTok live. Sometimes I'll put up an Instagram story saying, "Yo, we're gonna try to bless this family with like I did 2 days ago, 3 days ago. Let's bless a family with $1,000 today and give it all away." And within like 4 hours, not me going live or anything, people donated $1,000. And then the other thing is when you get that kind of blessing, it's okay. That exact same day, I need to find that family. I need to make that video and post that video that same day to show the transparency and allow them to feel that their $20 or $50 or $2, whatever it is they donated, went to it, like they felt where it went to. Um, so it's community funded. And then I'm able to like move forward my life through brand deals and sponsorships and obviously YouTube as well. But I've probably if 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 there's been like 50,000 in community funded, I probably put in at least half more, so like 75 or like there's always more. Like people don't know that, but like there's always more and like that's fine because that's what I want to do and that just comes out and but yeah, a lot of it's community funded and just very fortunate to have a community that like it's crazy to think like really like someone giving a stranger $50 to go make a video to potentially help a stranger, potentially post a video. Like the idea that a stranger would act and actually do that shows you like how many like beautiful people that or when they see someone doing good, people want to get behind it. That's like the hardest thing is like when someone's doing good, people support it. But like the one to start it, it's always harder to find that. So to anyone listening is like interested in like getting in a space and doesn't know where to start, my biggest piece of advice is just start and go for it and believe in yourself before anyone believes in you or pats you on the back because anyone can do anything, especially if you're like purpose driven and like this fuels you or makes you feel alive.
How do you build a community like the one you've built? And I think it's important to distinguish for the person listening to this, like a following and a community are two separate things. So a following is the number on the screen, but the community is the people that make up that following. And so how do you build such a I don't even know what the right word is, but people who are willing to contribute like that, like such a community that's so bought into the mission and purpose of what you're doing. Like how do you build that?
Yeah, it's not one video, right? It's been like 6 months of like every day or probably every day, a video of just vulnerability, authenticity, and being true to your word and always following through. There's never been one day where I've gone donations and I haven't then gone that same day, found the person, made the video, and post the video the exact same day. And people appreciate that. I assume probably like probably 60 or 70 or 80% of people who donate are like just the returning people, right? I know I can name like 10 people off the top of my head, but like it's because they see and they just, yeah, even sometimes it's like someone gives me $5 every time I make a video. It's like, it's better than doing a cup of coffee. They tell you, I can't say the name, but it's just the idea of consistency, authenticity, vulnerability, and always being always about serving others. And that's why I love the GoPro videos more than like the other videos because I'm not in the video. And even if you watch the videos, that's another thing I talk about 70-30 or 80-20. That's like the percentage of like them speaking to me speaking. Video is not about me. It's about the other person, them sharing what they have gone through or why they're being kind and their story. And it's always make it about the other person and serve others. And it always comes back to you. And karma's real. Karma's real.
So even though it's 70-30, 80-20 in terms of the speaking, are you starting to get recognized now? You know, when you're in public, you're doing something like this or you're doing the blindfold videos, like do people know you as like the guy from TikTok or the guy from Instagram now? Is that happening more and more?
Yeah, I'd say like one out of every like 5 to 10 people say something to me. And it's funny, they don't say my name. They say, "Yo, MD," especially here. It's ironic. It's like I'm getting MD. Like it's like it's so backwards if you think about where it actually stems from. But like the coolest thing about that is the most people that come up to me are like teenage and my age guys. And the videos of a lot of them are about emotions, depression, mental health. And they say it's so cool. And you've inspired me to share my story. Like to hear guys share that, that's the coolest thing for me, especially like the next generation. Um, so like I want to make like now like philanthropy cool. Like that's what I'm currently doing now. I'm in the process of starting my own nonprofit. Um, there's no reason you have to be 75 or 80. Like the way the world works now with social media and your phone, if you build a community or you want to do something, you can do it. Um, and that's cool, but that's not, it just, I think it's funny when they say MD. That's like the funniest thing of it all.
But so with people coming up to you and telling you their story, and, and it's always heavy stuff. And like I'm sure in your comments too, and I know you said that oftentimes people just want to be heard. They're not necessarily looking for an answer or solutions, and they just want to be heard. But even despite that, like that's still a lot of heavy stuff that you have to listen to and read every day. I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but like how do you handle that emotionally as the individual that's receiving this? Like hearing it from one person can be heavy. You're hearing it from hundreds, thousands every day. Like, how do you handle that?
Especially in person. Um, like I said, when I first started, it would like, I felt like I needed to fix everything. Now, one, I know I don't need to fix everything. Two, the guy that I work with, my videographer, if there's ever something really heavy or feel like I left the situation where I should have said something different or better or asked them a question that I didn't and regret and like, how do I help? We have those conversations like on the spot as part of like the workday, so to speak. So nothing builds. So I guess that's my biggest piece of advice is having that person that you can communicate to at a time that works for both of you. Um, that's probably the biggest thing for me. And obviously, like my knee's better. So for me, I'm back to like playing sports and working out. That's a huge outlet for me. If I don't do that, I notice how much different my headspace is. And finding a toolbox that works for you, whether it's speaking up to a friend, whether it's sports, whether it's art, whether it's poetry, painting, nature, meditating, journaling, all those things that people talk about. I always recommend people to try everything and then find like three things that you can't do without and then stick to those because that should be like your backbone on a day to day.
Can you tell me the significance of this quote? People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care.
That's crazy. You said that because I was just about to bring that quote up in the previous question. People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. My dad's owns a window and door company. He's super blue collar. I don't think he finished high school. And like, he works like 14-hour days and 6 days a week and still working at like 63. And like, that was his number one quote to me growing up. People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. That's a quote that he's taught me to like live by. And I think it's kind of self-explanatory in terms of what the quote means. I just wanted to tell you about like the significance of why, uh, where it stems from. But like as I've grown up, I don't know if you've ever noticed that too. Maybe like even like a Disney movie, like quotes they say make sense, but like as you experience more of life, you come back to those quotes and they hit different or they're deeper than they were at that time, even though they had the same thing and they made sense at the time. And that quote is similar to me in my own life with things that I experience or go through now.
No, but that makes sense. And I'll kind of relate to that with a different quote is that I'm not going to get it exactly verbatim, but it's like no person ever walks in the same river twice because one, the river's always flowing. So the river's always changing. And two, the person themselves are always changing. So it's a different person in a different river every time you step in it. So no person ever walks in the same river twice. But that's like where you come back to a quote and you hear it differently the second time.
100%.
One thing I want to ask you is how do you find time to take breaks? Because throughout this conversation, you've mentioned that you'll raise money and then same day you'll raise money, go and shoot a video, edit a video, post a video. And you also said as soon as you finish posting a video, you don't even think about you're thinking about the next video. So you're kind of on a hamster wheel. How do you find time to take breaks?
I probably don't take as many breaks as I should. And I'm trying to focus more on like sprint walk versus a constant like hamster run on a wheel. So I'm trying to work for like right now, I'm in a very blessed situation and fortunate situation to like all these things have aligned for me. I'm trying to take advantage of the opportunity before that opportunity gets passed to someone else or runs up. So that's the first thing. I recognize the position I'm in and I feel like I'm just scratching the surface, to be quite honest with you, what I want to do. And I don't get burnt out because I really like, I know that's so cliche, but like I really enjoy what I'm doing. The only thing I don't like doing is editing the videos and doing the captions and spending the and now I've got my videographer editing it finally after, like, 5 months. It's a trust thing, it wasn't a money thing, it was a trust. Because I felt like I knew it, but, like, he does it now, so the one thing that was, like, draining me, um, is no longer draining me. Um, so balance is I have to work on it, to answer your question. There you go.
And I don't think it'll ever be, it's not a balancing act. Like I heard this somewhere else. It was like, it's not a balancing act, it's juggling, right? Like you'll be paying attention to one thing and you'll have it, then you'll throw it up there so you can pay attention to the next ball. Then you'll throw that up there and you'll pay attention. And you're juggling. It'll never be perfectly, there will never be equilibrium. It'll never be balanced. But I know we're running out of time here. So I want to ask you the same question I ask everybody at the end of every interview. So instead of me asking the question for this, it's you asking the question, but it's not to me. So pretend you have a crystal ball. You can ask this crystal ball any question, you'll get the 100% honest answer. What is one question you want to know the answer to?
What is the one question? Wow. A lot of questions popped in my head. Give me a sec. I don't know. I'm letting you down. I should have gave you something deep here, but
I think taking this much time to think about it is deep in its own right. Because you're thinking like it's a question you're taking seriously.
mhm. I guess the first question is, do you ever get over depression or do you just learn to deal with it? That's a personal question though, because I've like gone over it, but like I don't feel like I'm over it. So I'm curious. That's my question.
I wish I had an answer for you. I really do. But
You don't have a crystal
with the
ball over there? I think I see one right there.
yeah, with the nature of that question, unfortunately, I can't give an answer. But I want to thank you so much, man. One, for taking time to come on the podcast and being as open as you were on the show. It means a lot to me. You're willing to do that. So I just wanted to thank you for that. Um, as always, at the end of every podcast, I want to give you the floor as well. Where can the people find you? I know we mentioned it throughout, but plug anything and everything you got right now.
Yeah, so Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, MDmotivator. But most importantly, I hope everyone's doing well. Be kind and love everyone because you holding the door, paying for someone's coffee, smiling at someone could literally make or break someone's day, week, honestly, life. So please be kind because you never know what people are going through and you matter most. Much love.
It's a great message to end on, man. I want to thank you once again for taking time to come on the podcast. I want to thank everybody for listening, whether you've listened the entire way through or you only listen to bits and pieces. I really appreciate you taking time to check this out. Do me a big favor. Go and follow Zach, MDmotivator. It'll be linked in the show notes down below so you can find it, but please make sure you go and follow him. His content will have you in your feelings very fast, but it's a good time. So I highly recommend you follow him. If you'd like to follow me, you can find me everywhere on social media at the Jacob Kelly. Feel free to come and say hello. My DMs are always open. As always, today's podcast is powered by Surf. Thank you once again for listening. We'll talk soon.